Today I've travelled from Auckland, pretty early start for me. I got up at I think 5:30 to be at the airport in time, and courtesy of Air New Zealand we travelled for about an hour and before we got here on a lovely Hawke's Bay day. A little bit foggy when we arrived, but the fog's burned off and it's a real, really cracker of a day. Hawke's Bay has been producing some of the country's best wines since vines were first planted by Marist missionaries here in 1851. That's a lot of history for one region. Best known for Chardonnay, red blends and Syrah, this large and diverse wine region is as full of surprises as anyone who's explored the wine trail here can tell you. Okay, here we are at Radburnd Cellars, and I guess Collaboration Wines, they share this facility on a lovely morning in Hawke's Bay at the end of vintage, the 2021 vintage. Radburnd Cellars was started up by Kate Radburnd, who's a very well-known winemaker in the area. In 2017, I think, was when she opened her doors and made the first wine in 2018. I think I've got that right. Here we are, entrance to Radburnd. Had a chat with Kate Radburnd with her new winery, where they were just sorting the very last of the fruit coming in, Syrah, and they look pretty clean to me, but they still seem to be able to separate the good from the great, and produce a wine which Kate confidently says is going to be an absolute stunner.
So these are our red fermenters, and these little ones are jewel.
Right.
So the juice gets drawn in into there, so the skins get left behind. We draw the juice out and then pump it back over.
You don't use wild yeast?
Yeah, so we...
Or you do?
We handpick the fruit and chill it overnight.
Yeah.
Then it comes in here, we put it through the destemmer, and so sorting table, destemmer, sorting table again. And then it goes into these tubs, and it's quite cold, so it probably takes, I don't know, 3, 4 or 5 days. I just let it soak, and then the indigenous yeast kick the fermentation off. Sometimes I do the entire ferment with indigenous. Other times I'll then inoculate with cultured yeast.
Right.
Once the first ferment's initiated.
It's quite the fashion now to use indigenous yeast, isn't it?
To me, it gives more weight in the palate.
And a savoury in this, a sort of savoury.
Yeah, I can see why you
more winey, less fruity, more vinous, less fruity.
I think it's, for me, just, and it's probably the combination with the cold soaking, it's more textural, but
yeah.
I don't know. So when that goes into the ferment, you can imagine this fills up with juice, the grapes stay out, so it's just pure clear juice that you're pumping through the pump, because you don't want to block that up.
No.
And then up and over.
You get bottling done.
So bottling, yes, we use contractors for bottling.
Yeah, as does everybody really. There's not too many people do their own.
We've gone for what I'm hoping understated and elegant.
Yeah.
I always love the Chanel No. 5 packaging, you know, the white box with the black logo, and we just really wanted to relay the pertinent information clearly. So the brand name, the vintage, and Hawke's Bay, and the varietal. So hopefully we've achieved that. We had a packaging engineer in Auckland design the packaging, which we had loved the way an iPhone box just self-closes, so these presentation packs do that. I think our approach with the wine, we're making small volumes of ultra premium wine, trying to do everything the best way we can.
Yeah, it's not inexpensive, reassuringly expensive, I should say. Also talked to Jules at Collaboration Wines. They work from out of the same winery, and they got the same message from Jules. She's just overwhelmed with the quality of the grapes that have come through so far. I always like your wines. To me, the standout feature of your wines, and I love them, is the texture. I really, to me, I don't know how you do it. What's your secret?
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Understanding science.
It really is a wow to me.
Oh, thank you.
It's not a matter of applying the same formula again and again.
Yeah. Sort of, even like this year, it's sort of, going, what's happening? Yeah. Physiologically, bricks, acid, flavours, yeah.
And you've only got a short window to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to make your decisions pretty fast.
Yeah, gosh.
Considering the last few years, God, we've been incredibly fortunate with the weather.
Yeah.
We really have.
3 in a row, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Very fortunate.
And it's the end of vintage. We visited a few wineries already, and the news is all good about the 2021 vintage. It's one of the earliest vintages they've come across, but the quality is looking terrific. Quantity might be down a little bit. We haven't got a decent fix on that, but quality is terrific, and that makes it a hat trick of 3 cracker vintages in a row, which is quite unusual. So well done, Hawke's Bay, for that. From there we went to Elephant Hill, where I'm broadcasting from, and you can see behind me, looking out the Cape Kidnappers, what a spectacular view. I'm sure if grapes responded to view, this is going to boost their quality just by being here. It's just an idyllic spot, just a wonderful spot. It's amazing to me when I look down the driveway at the Phoenix Palms, mature Phoenix Palms, that they've only been there since, I think their first vintage was 2007, and the man who started it all, Roger Weiss, was a wealthy German fellow, a lovely man. I met him several times, and gradually fell in love with Hawke's Bay and bought a plot of land at Te Awhonga, built a lovely home, a wonderful home, and because it was suitable for growing grapes, established vineyards and built this winery, just a bit on the side, I suppose. But sadly he passed away at quite a young age, and his son Andreas now runs the show and runs it well. And they're making, the great thing about Elephant Hill is that it's a simple concept to understand. They've got 3 vineyards. They've got one on the coast where we are now, Te Awhonga. They've got one in the Gimblett Gravels, which needs no introduction, and they've got one at Bridgepar, and they're all cracker vineyards producing lovely grapes and ultimately wonderful wine. Probably Syrah would be their flagship wine, and they do very well with that. They're not just a red wine producer, they're an exciting white wine producer as well. As a keen photographer, I love this stage of vine development, with the yellows and oranges through it, running it. This looks wonderful. It's great. I mean, they've done their job. They're shutting down for winter now. The next thing will be pruning in a couple of months, and then it's all over again, that life cycle again. But it's also terribly scary. There's so many things can go wrong, like hail can suddenly go through and tear up a vintage. What rain can be a problem, rots that follow rain, and so forth. So it's a perilous business, but enormously satisfying when everything goes well, I'm sure. I don't know what inspired the use of Elephant Hill as a brand name, but I think it's brilliant. There's something very, very nice about elephants, and solid and reliable and clever. It somehow translates to wine quite well. I'm not sure why. Certainly a room with a view. What a spectacular vista out towards Cape Kidnappers, and it changes throughout the day as the light changes, reflecting off the cliffs. It's just a wonderful outlook. There's something very uplifting about a long distance vista like this. I don't know what it is, but it's a great spot for a restaurant, that's for sure. And for a winery, I need to add. We're featuring a few of my favourite wines, 4 whites and 4 reds that knock my socks off, and I hope they'll do the same for you. To order the wines and replay tastings, go to Cellar Door to Door by clicking on Events. Say hello to 2019 Kumu River Rays Road Chardonnay. That's made by Michael Brojkovic, New Zealand's first Master of Wine. I happen to be New Zealand's second Master of Wine, but I prefer to call myself New Zealand's first Master of Wine under 6 foot and over 40, because I'm younger and shorter, older and shorter than Michael is. If you've seen the documentary, the wine documentary, A Seat at the Table, you will understand the acclaim and the fame that Michael Brojkovic and Kumu River have brought New Zealand Chardonnay. Rays Road is a vineyard that was originally developed by by Jolivet, the Sancerre producers in France, and Trinity Hill, and they were going to produce top quality, and do produce top quality Sauvignon Blanc from that site, but Kumu River have now bought the vineyard and producing this wine from the Chardonnay. It's an exciting, quite inland vineyard. It's a hillside vineyard, 180 meters altitude, and is producing this just truly elegant wine. I think you've got to absolutely pat Michael on the back for getting the best out of it, but the vineyard is playing a big part in the style. Hand-picked, whole bunch pressed, fermented with wild yeasts. This is only the second vintage of 2019 under this label, but it's an absolutely lovely wine. It's terrific. It's got. I fancy that I can taste the limestone. It's got that slightly chalky edge to it. Very, very elegant wine. Just quite complete. It's got a core of sweet fruit with white peach, nectarine, lovely saline minerals lift there that's supported by really gentle acidity, totally seductive, fruit-forward wine with that ethereal texture that just really caps it off. Wonderful wine. I scored that 95 points, which ranked it 10th out of 61 2019 Chardonnays from Hawke's Bay. The perfect match, the food match for this wine, according to Michael, is bluff oysters done any way. You can have them raw, tempura batter, or beer batter. Doesn't matter. They all go brilliantly with this wine. This is 2019 Radburnd Vineyards Block 191 Chardonnay. I've always enjoyed Radburnd's Chardonnays in the past, but this is a new label and I think it's an absolute cracker. It's whole bunch pressed, spent 11 months in French oak on the full lees. They only made 900 bottles, but it's well worth seeking out. The winemaker was explaining to me that they pick across the vineyard and then gradually fill barrels sequentially with the juice, so that the wine actually reflects, you know, the part of the vineyard, like the cluster of barrels here reflect that sort of part of the vineyard, and then when they've finished, they choose the best 3 barrels out of 30 to 45 total. It's from the Tuki Valley. When you cross the Waimarama Bridge, if you've ever been that way, you could turn left or right. If you turn right and drive for 1.91 kilometres you'll be at the vineyard, and that's where it's got its name, hence 191. So it seems strange to me, but there we go. It's sort of really Burgundian, traditional Burgundian winemaking, light press, only retrieving 450 to 510 litres per tonne, and the result is quite extraordinary. I think it's the texture that impresses me the most. It's rich, creamy and complex. It's got white peach, grapefruit, apple, oyster shell and spicy oak characters. Really accessible now. I could just dive into it right now, but it has the potential, I think, to develop with bottle age. I think it could get even more interesting than it is. I gave that 94 points, and it's ranked 21st out of 61 2019 Chardonnays from Hawke's Bay. The winemaker David McKee says this dish is on our Blackburn Bistro. It goes well with this dish, which is on our Blackburn Bistro menu: duck liver pate, cep, jam, sherry, and duck fat and brioche. What a mixture! That's it's not approved by Weight Watchers or the Heart Foundation, but it'll go really well with this wine. This is 2019 Hancock & Sons Bridgepar Reserve Chardonnay. John Hancock is the author of this wine. He's a famous wine name in New Zealand. He started at Delegates. John's an Australian, and after graduating at Roseworthy, he came over here and started at Delegates. He was their founding winemaker at Moreton Estate after Delegates, and at Trinity Hill, where he was also a shareholder, and recently started his own brand, and with the help of winemaker son Willie and younger son Michael waiting in the wings. John's probably best known for his black label Chardonnays at Moreton Estate, and I can remember we used to have a Chardonnay tasting once a year where we'd compare those black label Chardonnays from Moreton with great Chardonnays from around the world. They were very great tastings and remembered with affection by all those regulars who used to come along once a year for them. But John's styling this wine after that black label Chardonnay. It's 50% new oak on the lees for 14 months. He uses the same cultured yeast that he once used to ferment black label. So it's really modelled after that black label Chardonnay, and I think he's done a very good job. It's really interesting when you taste the wine. If you have experienced the old Moreton Black Label Chardonnay, if you taste the wine with that thought in your head, it's like a blast from the past. Lovely, rich wine it's got citrus, grapefruit, hazelnut, I think ginger, sort of baguette crust flavours. A really serious Chardonnay with cellaring potential, and it's sort of back to the future for me. I think there's a lot of people are going to find this wine very exciting, and so well done, John. I gave it 94 points, which ranked it 18th out of 61 2019 Chardonnays from Hawke's Bay. Food match. John reckons the Chardonnay is perfectly paired with caramelised Nelson scallops and a lemon butter sauce. That sounds pretty good to me. Well done, John. This is 2018 Radburnd Chardonnay. Radburnd Cellars was established in 2017 to make the best wines using the best fruit and the best equipment and resources, according to Kate Radburnd. Kate was a Roseworthy graduate. She had her first job at Vitals and then joined Pask as winemaker and became a shareholder later on as well. She's became a chairman of the Royal Easter Show in 2010 and has judged extensively locally and overseas. Kate knows good wine when she sniffs it, that's for sure. There's so many accolades for the service that Kate's given to the wine industry that I can't even begin to narrate them here, but she is an institution. This is an made from old vine Mendoza clone Chardonnay. Now I'll just explain what a Mendoza clone is. It's a clone of Chardonnay that gives you, we call it hen and chickens, big berries and little berries. And the little berries are intensely flavoured and intensely sweet, and they help to give the Mendoza clone wine richness and weight that's quite extraordinary. It's from a vineyard at Mangatahi and two vineyards at Mangatahi and Bridgepar. The bunches are chilled. She cools them down, whole bunch pressed and settled ferment in 500 litres and 225 litre French oak. That is a move towards slightly bigger oak with less oak influence. The larger the volume container, the less oak the wine picks up. So she's sort of moving away from that really heavy oak influence, and it's matured in oak for 9 months. What a concentrated Chardonnay, really, it just screams Mendoza clone. Big, powerful wine with citrus, tree fruit, peach, a little bit of struck flint mineral character, hazelnut, and I get some brioche there too. It's a seamless, sophisticated wine that's a pleasure to taste now, but really promises to become more interesting with bottle age. I scored that 95 points and ranked it 21st out of 85 2018 Chardonnays from Hawke's Bay. Kate says a great match is butterflied barbecue chicken, which is on the menu for me tonight. I hope I can find a glass of this wine to accompany it. Cheers. Here we have a 2018 Stonecroft Gimblett Gravels Reserve Syrah. Stonecroft's a small family-owned organic producer that the current owners bought in 2010. When I say small, their production is 2,500 cases, which is pretty minute. I once had described a winery's as boutique, and the winemaker, slightly offended, said, well, define a boutique. And I said a boutique winery is a winery where the owners could, with a little help from a few friends, drink their entire production if they so wished. And they thought for a minute and said, yeah, I guess that's about right. Yeah. So I think you need quite a few friends to drink 2,500 cases, but I know a number of people who'd be very willing to put their hands up. One of their main desires at Stonecroft is to make wines that age well. This is from the Roy's Hill vineyard in the Gimblett Gravels, and they've used French oak barriques for 18 months, 30% new. That's quite a hit of oak, but a wine of this proportion can certainly handle it. They've got the oldest Syrah vines in New Zealand that were planted in 1984, and those were vines that Stonecroft founder rescued from the Te Kawata research station, and they were probably brought over by James Busby in the early 1800s. It's a really intense, vibrant wine. I put it in my mouth and I think it's wonderful. It's got energy. It ripples with energy, and you think it's going to become even more aggressive toward the finish, and then it mellows and has this lovely sort of rather quiet finish. It's dense and elegant. I guess plum. I'm getting dark berry, black pepper, anise, and sort of nutty oak flavours. It's got a backbone of ripe tannins, but it's really balanced by that core of fruit sweetness that I talked about. Powerful linear red that's really got a promising future. I don't think they're going to have any. They've succeeded admirably in producing a wine that's is a long distance runner. I scored it a 12th out of 55 2018 Syrah from Hawke's Bay. The winemaker and owner, Dermot McCollum, claims that Wagyu beef, venison, grilled aubergines and mushrooms or aged Gouda all go well with this wine. I don't think we put them all together, I think you have them individually, but so that's Wagyu beef, venison, grilled aubergines and mushrooms or aged Gouda. Sounds good to me. Cheers. This is 2018 Trinity Hill Leretage Syrah, and it's from 3 vineyards, all in the Gimblett Gravels area. It's got that Gimblett Gravels stamp all over it. It's 99.5% Syrah and 0.5% Viognier. That's the white grape, Viognier, and they just put in Viognier skins, and it can have just a tiny little amount of skins in wine. It has an extraordinary effect on the wine. It makes it deeper in colour. That seems counterintuitive to use a white grape to make a red wine even deeper. And it gives it a more floral bouquet and a softness and richness to the palate that wouldn't be there otherwise. So it's a northern Rhone trick. In Côte Rôtie, the wines are often made that way, and it's not uncommon in New Zealand, although not always. People don't always declare the addition of Viognier. Most of the wine is made from, just a bit over half was from clones brought to New Zealand in the 1830s by James Busby. 27% is a mass selection rescued from Te Kawhata Research Station, and 27% are from Gerard Jabelet cuttings that were given from the Jabelet producer Gerard Jabelet in France. So quite an interesting blend of Syrah clones there. About half the wine is aged in a 5,400 litre French oak oval. So they're really going for avoiding obvious oak in that portion anyway, and a half are aged in 228 litre French barriques, and then the two halves are blended together to get a wine, to produce a wine that is really you can see that really intensely coloured and powerfully, generously proportioned. It's a powerful yet supremely elegant Syrah with floral, violet, plum spice, black pepper. anise, and really nutty oak flavours. Really a very impressive red indeed. It's got a dense structure of ripe tannins that just cry out to be to help the wine age. Let the tannins do their work. Keep your hands off it for a few years, and you'll really be well rewarded. I scored it 96 points, and ranked it 6th out of 55 2018 Syrahs from Hawke's Bay. Winemaker Warren Gibson recommends matching the wine with bone shoulder of Hawke's Bay spring lamb smothered in hoisin sauce, char grilled on the barbecue until it's crisp on the outside and medium on the inside, and then thinly slice it over fresh rocket salad with baby tomatoes and grated Parmigiano cheese. Yum! Well done, Warren. This is 2017 Collaboration Wines Impression Red. Jules, the creator of Collaboration, and the winemaker, and everything else in the company as well. I think this is a very small producer. Says, I am dedicated to making wines with layers of depth, richness, complexity, and texture that will age gracefully. And I think she's achieved that with this particular wine, and remarkably achieved it in a very difficult vintage. 2017 was a wet vintage that required a lot of hard work to produce a wine of this quality. I think she's done extremely well. In fact, I'm always with Collaboration wine, I'm really impressed by the texture, by the sort of seamless, fine-grained texture these wines have. And I asked Jules just this morning about how she achieved that, and she said not being afraid to let the wine see air, and I just thought that that's probably a very traditional approach to winemaking that actually really works. She was raised in Hawke's Bay, but she's worked in Napa Valley in the USA, Margaret River, Western Australia, and of course Hawke's Bay. And I think that her certainly her Californian experience really shows in this wine. It just reminds me of so many really smart Californian Bordeaux blends that I've had when I lived over there. It's spent 18 months in matured French oak barrels. That's used French oak barrels, and I think I'm going to try it. It's a classic Collaboration wine. Delicately aromatic blend of Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc with sort of mixed berry, fresh herb and subtle floral violet flavours. It's just very approachable, made with a light touch. It's not been worked over. It's not a wine that's started out as one thing and turning into another. It's a really clever expression of place with and not showing the vintage, the reflections of a tough vintage. Just very impressive indeed. Well done, Jules. I ranked it 5th out of 20 2017 Merlot blends from Hawke's Bay. Winemaker Jules recommends beef cheek ragu as the perfect match. I'll drink to that. This is 2018 Elephant Hill Hieronymus, and it's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc and Merlot. We're at Elephant Hill, so We're not too far from the vineyard that produced this wine, although they didn't get it from the Te Awanga vineyard where we were standing. They got it from 100% Gimblett gravels, and it aged in 24 months in French oak, 70% new. Interestingly, they explained to me how they got the oak seasoned for 5 years. So they purchased the oak and it was seasoned for 5 years before they used it, which I'm sure added to the price somewhat. It's got terrific cellaring potential. This is really a wine that's best to decant beforehand. In fact, that's exactly what I did with this. They asked me if we'd decant the wine, so we did it. I'm looking forward to trying that version of it because Hugh and Hawke in fact tasted this wine, and he wrote, I'll give you my impression of it in a minute, but he wrote very deep red colour with a good tint of purple and complex young bouquet of cedar, blueberry, cigar box and violet with a trace of smoked charcuterie. The wine is full-bodied and elegantly structured, the tannins fine, the finish stylish with an acceptable twist of bitterness, concentrated, bright and youthful wine with a long future ahead. That's a very extensive and very good tasting note from a man who knows his stuff. And let's see now whether I agree with him. Wow, yeah, certainly go with the concentration and elegance. I would say elegance on a grand scale. It's a lovely wine. Dense. It's almost chewy. It's got this very fine texture and almost like sort of cocoa powder character. Terrific wine. And just a youngster, just a sleeper. If you could keep your hands off it for, even 5 or 10 years, you'd be well rewarded. I think this could be a 20 to 30 year wine. Ewan gave it, ranked it first out of 23 2018 Merlot blends. Elephant Hill winemaker Steve Skinner recommends confit duck legs with duck fat and roast potatoes. That's not something that's approved by Weight Watchers or the Heart Foundation, but I'm sure it would be a wonderful match to this equally rich wine. Cheers. So there we have it. Thanks for joining us at Hawke's Bay. I'm Bob Campbell, and that was The Real Review.